Hi there. My name is Kristen Reed, and I'm a first grade teacher at Grantham Village School. Thank you for taking the opportunity to watch my presentation this way. I had fully anticipated making it to class this week, but unfortunately, just in the last couple of days, I was told of two mandatory meetings I had to attend after school, and then I also have to get to vote, which is really important. And with class being an hour away from home, that they didn't all coincide to make it possible for me to make it to class. So again, thank you for watching it this way. I am just going to share my screen and hopefully this all works out properly. And I'm going to go into my PowerPoint and play from the start. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so like Molly, who presented last week, I created my presentation as if I were rolling out a change initiative to the staff at my school. So a few years back, my team teacher and I, or I guess my first grade counterpart at the time, and I found a need that we needed to fill to better educate our students. And it was kind of like that from the Robots movie, Find a Need, Fill a Need. We had to make changes to the way we taught to make sure we could fill those needs. So we took baby steps in becoming collaborative teachers. And every year since then, probably every week since then, we've refined and got better at the process. So we have noticed amazing benefits to what we're doing. And administration has also. So administration actually would like other collaborative grade level teams to, for lack of a better way to say it, work more like we do. So my presentation, my change initiative is on collaborative teaching. So the first thing, if you're so inclined to do so, you can click pause and take a moment to just kind of do a brain dump and write all the things that you do in the course of a day. And when you finish that, just hit play again and I will talk again. Okay, so I'm assuming you hit pause, you wrote. Now if you can flip your paper over and on the other side, just do another brain dump, all the things that you wish you had time to do in the course of a day. Okay, now again, I'm going to assume that you unpaused and you're back with me, and I am going to switch the slide again. So this is just a culmination of, I sent out emails to my colleagues at my school, and then I'm a pre-K through 6th grade school, so I sent out some emails to some middle high school teachers in my hometown school district, so I could have a better grouping of teachers. So these are just some of the things that teachers said that they do during the course of a day. And if you think back to that first week of class, when Mike shared that poster, he shared a great poster that showed the evolution of what's expected of teachers and how much more is expected of teachers today than when public education first was founded. So this slide, it may look familiar to you. It's actually a slide that came from a previous assignment that I created, or a lot of it is anyway. You can press pause and read it if you'd like. I'm not going to read it to you. But I think some of the most important things to note is that 21st century citizens have pretty hefty expectations. They want to live and work in a world where they can travel as often as they like, whenever they like. They want to be able to keep up with their interests and abilities and not have that affect their work life. They want to be able to work with peers across the globe. And likewise, kind of in connection with that, in terms of what people's expectations are, 21st century learners want to be challenged and inspired in their learning to collaborate and work with peers, and then incorporate technology into their learning experiences. So as educators, the 21st century initiative would be to include creativity, collaboration, thinking and communication into our teaching. So we, as I mentioned before, our jobs are super hefty. We have a lot we have to do in terms of academics. But then when we add to that the diverse social emotional needs of students today, they have more requirements than one adult can possibly give them, especially when you have a room full of kids that you're also trying to implement the academics. So again, this is information that I pulled from a previous assignment in the course that I wrote previously. You're welcome to pause it and read it. But just highlighting the huge social emotional needs that kids are coming from due to their home background, individual goals and interests, their academic levels, mental and health issues, behavior problems, eating disorders, inappropriate or unhealthy sexual practices, drugs, addiction problems of themselves or of their family. Just so much is going on in kids' lives today that teachers need to help them with, and they aren't able to learn unless they can get through those needs met. So I want to quote Amy Parsons, who is a member of our class. And Amy, I hope this is okay that I used your information. She actually, I had been thinking a lot about this, and this quote influenced me to take the jump and decide that this is what I wanted to do for my change initiative. So in one of our assignments, Amy wrote, "The challenges being faced by educators are overwhelming at times. I often feel underprepared for the needs of my students and find myself seeking advice and help from outside sources. It can often feel impossible to do everything I need to do for my students, both academically and social emotionally. I honestly don't believe that any classroom teacher can possibly meet all of the needs of all of their students and teach an academically rigorous curriculum on a daily basis. I have often said that many days I feel as if I am spinning and cannot spin any faster. All I can offer is my best. Some days that means some kids get more of me than others." So kind of going back, it can often feel impossible to do everything I need to do for my students, both academically and social emotionally. Absolutely, that is such a valid quote, but it's expected of us that we can. So now it's, how can we look outside of the box to make sure that we are best meeting the needs academically and social emotionally of our students? So kind of taking a step back to my school, Grantham Village School is a small public, this says K through 6, but it's actually pre-K through 6 now. 206 students approximately, predominantly white. We have a great ranking. We're 10th of 233 New Hampshire elementary schools. Low number in free and discounted lunch recipients. Actually, in presentations last week, I knew ours was low, but listening to some of you talk, I was amazed at how low ours were in comparison. So what I did is I looked at our data, and there has been some good upswings, or not good, but some seeable upswings or upward trends. Now, not all of not everything I cite here has a chart or explicit data that goes with it. I talked to my principal. She gave me a lot of this information, but she wasn't able to give me the actual concrete data. Some of that was because our population has changed so notably recently, confidentiality, available resources, or whatnot. So, but what we did note is that staff absences have risen, behavior write-ups have risen, classroom evacuations due to severe behaviors have increased, the number of students with disabilities at Grantham Village School have increased, the percentage of students on free and reduced lunch have increased. Now, going back to that last slide and even looking here at the data, we're still super low, but we have had an increase. Number of in-school suspensions is still low relatively, but it's gradually increasing. And then from the New Hampshire DOE, looking at the assessment proficiency, we are still, again, highly ranked. We do well in tests. But regardless of that, there is a downward trend in proficiency in both ELA and in math. So there's the data about expectations and social emotional, and there's the data about their academics. So how can I connect those together? There is no concrete connection that says to me that the social emotional and the student behaviors are correlated. However, because of the, sorry, I'm flipping my notes papers, the parallel timing of the two, it seems like there is a correlation between the two. So taking those and knowing that one classroom teacher just can't possibly meet all these needs, the social emotional and the academic, I kind of came up with we can't go it alone and expect to be successful. So we need a team. Together, everyone achieves more. We need help. We need to work together. So I looked at co-teaching and team teaching and compared the two. Now, the big difference in co-teaching and team teaching is they both have two classroom teachers working together, whether it be two regular education teachers, a regular education teacher and a special ed teacher, or any combination thereof. But the big difference is that co-teaching doesn't necessarily mean that the teachers are working in the same classroom in tandem. They could be working in separate classrooms, but for the benefit of the same group of kids. Team teaching does mean that you're actually working together in a classroom in tandem. So when I was looking at it, I was thinking, you know, one size doesn't fit all. A blended approach really makes much more sense, and I decided to call that a collaborative teaching. So the benefits to students of collaborative teaching: increased options for flexible grouping of students, another set of eyes watching to help problem solve, increased classroom management and opportunities for processing behavior, reduced student-teacher ratio, increased instructional options for all students, diversity of instructional styles, greater student engagement time, greater student participation levels, increased time in learning. I also noted from last week that Molly in her presentation talked about purpose-driven learning, and that to have purpose-driven learning, you need to create relationships with students. Well, by collaborative teaching, you have more opportunity to create those relationships with students. So just connecting back again to Molly, it would be a benefit that it could help you to execute purpose-driven learning. And then I also wanted to make a connection to Lori's presentation from last week. She spoke about nonfiction writing scores, predominantly science and social studies and the SATs, and how there's difficulty, who's responsible for teaching these kids how to do their nonfiction writing. And when I was listening to her, it was screaming to me the idea of collaborative teaching. So just to share a little bit about the benefits to me, with our increased student needs, we saw increased class sizes, increased behaviors. This year especially, many classroom evacuations because of unsafe behavior of one student. With all that, there has been very little loss of time and learning in first grade this year and in previous years because we collaborative teach. So, for example, when there's been an evacuation, it's been seamless that we're on the same page and all the students just go into the other room and the learning continues exactly how it was. Or if there's a student who's struggling with something socially or emotionally and they just need to talk. Before the collaborative teaching, it was almost, I was doing a disservice. I couldn't stop and talk to them because I had 19 other 6-year-olds that needed my attention as well. But with collaborative teaching, I can, because I can excuse myself from the learning environment whole class and go have some one-on-one time with that student, or my collaborative teacher can do that. So there's very little loss of time in learning and more time available for the needs of students. So this is like, what are your first steps? And honestly, your first step is creating a relationship with the teacher or teachers that you want to work collaboratively with. So you need to establish rapport, identify your teaching styles and use them to create a cohesive classroom, discuss strengths and weaknesses, discuss individualized education plans and regular education goals, and formulate a plan of action and act as a unified team. If you don't create that relationship and talk about what you're doing ahead of time, honestly, it's not going to be a successful situation. You need to feel safe with each other. You need to be able to take risks. A colleague recently came to me and she was wanting to work collaboratively with a special education team. And she wrote up, she shared it with me, a beautiful collaborative team template that she had it all figured out for, gosh, I think it was weeks. And I'm gonna quote what she said. She was frustrated and she said, this is an example of how institutional team planning could benefit a student, but in effect is dead in the water because person X, Y, and Z have failed to take responsibility for launching it. Well, to me, I don't think person X, Y, or Z failed to take responsibility for launching it. I feel like they were, or what I saw and what I heard was that plan was handed to them and they were told to implement it. A relationship was never created between the team members, and they never collaborated about how they would work together. The relationship part, again, is so important for success. So after you create your relationship, you need to take a hop, not a huge leap, and formulate a plan of action and act as a unified team. So what are you going to do first? And just change one small change at a time. So some ideas are lesson plan with your grade level colleague to ensure that you have a parallel curriculum. Co-teach one subject, so math or shared reading. Develop stations together and share students in small groups. So when my team teacher and I started doing this, we started with the lesson planning together. And that worked really well, and we had a great relationship. And after that, we found that our next step was we looked at our reading groups and how many various levels and needs we had and how can we best meet all those needs. So we looked at our day, and we were fortunate that we have a paraprofessional in first grade. And we figured out that I don't want to say wasting, but we classroom teachers were wasting half an hour to 45 minutes every day watching the kids at snack and then watching them at free choice playtime. So first grade, they have free choice playtime. So that was half an hour to 40 minutes that we could be teaching. So we had to think outside of the box. How can we best utilize us? And what we ended up doing was half of the first grade would go to snack and choice with the para, and half of the first grade would stay with my collaborative teacher and me. And we would do small group reading instruction or one-on-one readings or whatever we needed to do with smaller groups of students. And then after, I think it's a 35-minute block, we'd switch. So the kids that were with us at this time would go to snack and free choice play with the para, and we'd get those other kids with us so that we can really give kids the things that they need. So again, without the relationship and the willingness to take a risk and try something, that wouldn't have worked. So in closing, take risks and grow. A wonderful aspect of co-teaching is that it allows you to take risks, learn from each other, and grow as professionals. So the whole point of this collaborative teaching is doing what's best for students and what's best for teachers as well. So take a risk, create a relationship, work together, and good luck with that. And here are my references. And just a little bit of a side, kind of neat, this, I went to a co-teaching conference last week, and Susan Fitzel was actually one of the presenters, which I thought was kind of neat to be able to make that connection. So anyway, thank you again for listening. Please send some comments and questions so we can dialogue back and forth, and take care.